Don't prove me wrong, prove you right. Don't prove me wrong, prove you right. My word is bond, we don't spit no lies. A daughter of the sunshine, but every blue moon I come alive at night. I like lace and I like braids, but I love my natural. Edges laid from the east side, building on the west coast. My high tolerance for pain don't mean I'ma take you. All them fake followers ain't gon' like your pics. I rep the water bearer sign, but all the elements live rent free in my mind. Booty. Moody. Moody. Oh, you big moody. I crave love and attention, but I keep everybody at a distance. If I build it, will y'all really come? Bought all these panties, but I really don't wear.
Look, we tastemakers, groundbreakers, we crown shakers. Moved us out the margin, we're writing, that's how we found paper.
Welcome to NWA Connie Corso's podcast, where we talk all things dogs.
Brown sugar and cinnamon, don't think that I'm the greatest, I just settle for the synonyms. Hey, they wonder what's got it into him. I took a couple losses, I'm trying to win again and win again and win again. I ain't taking minimums, my destiny was written in. Coming with a different scent, coming with a different stench. Smelling like greatness and I spray it every day, that's the latest. The world been moving crazy all around me. I was hiding in my feelings, then you found me. I'm just too aware of my surroundings, looking at the blessings I've been counting. The world been moving crazy all around me. I was hiding in my feelings, then you found me. I'm just too aware of my surroundings. I've been looking at the blessings I've been counting. Look, I've been counting my blessings, but still stuck in my thoughts. Here I go, stuck in my head again. Daily I've been looking for some peace. What would you recommend? Have a couple drinks.
What's up, everybody? We're back for another one. Glad to have everybody back. This is gonna be a hell of a show. I'm so excited. I see you guys are. So with no further ado, we'd like to welcome Quinn Brumfield. How you doing, brother?
Hey, doing well. How about you?
Man, I am in it to win it. Brother Terry, how are you, sir?
Hey, what's happening? How you doing, brother?
I'm good. Good to see you.
Mm-hmm.
And Arkansas GOAT, Anthony Forte. What's happening, bro?
Hey, what's going on, man? How are y'all doing?
Man, good. Well, welcome everybody back to the NW Connie Corso show. Welcome you guys. We are very excited to have you. And let's just kind of go around the bend with intros. Quinn, can you start? Tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Okay, that's unusual because I usually don't like to talk about myself. But Quinn Brumfield, I reside in Tallahassee, Florida. Not originally a Floridian like most people here, but came here by way of the Army, and I'm still here. So been involved in Rottweilers since 1990. I think that predates some of the people here, perhaps. So I own Rottweilers. I owned Rottweilers from 1990 to 2004, and they were primarily pets, and I didn't do anything, just the basic obedience because I worked for a canine cop down the street from my house. Got out of the breed from 2005 to 2013. I owned a boxer for that period, and then oddly enough, my wife wanted to get a Rottweiler, and she had been a small breed on her, and she said she wanted a Rottweiler. So I was like, really? So I went on my quest to find a Rottweiler, and it's actually harder than people think it is, because at the time, you have social media, that's pretty much where most people go to find a dog.
Right.
So I went on my quest, and I knew I wanted to do something different because I was about to retire from the military. So I said, hey, I want to get my feet wet with showing and working dogs, and because it was always a passion of mine. I just couldn't find the niche, didn't know the right people. So found a breeder, and oddly enough, this breeder was not a show breeder. And this is how funny. It's funny how things fall into place, because this lady told me that each dog in her litter had underbites. It's like, wow, that's crazy. And she was not a show person. So luckily for me, I found another person out of Illinois, and she had a dog she was selling. She said it was a show quality dog. And I told her what I wanted to do, and she said, hey, this is not the dog for you. She was an honest person. She could have just sold me a dog and let me go about my way. But she said, hey, this is not the dog for you. Let me put you in contact with my really good friend who just bred her 2 dogs. And she put me in contact with Christina Meacham out of Kentucky, Northern Kentucky. And it couldn't have been a better match made in heaven, because Christina, she gravitated toward me. She took me under her wing, and she taught me a lot of things. So I owe a tremendous amount of credit to her, because she got me into the Rottweiler era a lot more than I ever intended on being. I'm still wondering to this day how I'm so far in it, but I'm happy. I met so many people because of an animal, and I continue to meet more people around the world, and it's incredible. But anyway, I bought my first 2 dogs. After my break, I bought my first 2 dogs from her, and she continued to just kind of give me information, and I didn't realize how involved she was in the breed until I started going to shows with her, and she started introducing me to people, and then she figured out I was slightly organized when it comes to paperwork and documents, and I could work with computer. So she coaxed me into to joining her club, not her club, but a club she was a part of. It's called, at the time it was called Rottweiler Club of America. I'm sorry. It later became IRCA, so United Rottweiler Club of America. Before that, it was a different club. But anyway, and then she later said, hey, why don't you run for an office on the executive board? I was like, really? I don't have time for that. But I did it because I wanted to volunteer. And I've been on the board for IRCA for at least the past 5 years. So done a few jobs. My current job is the director of regions. So that means all that breaks down. It means is that I reach out, contact judges from around the world, invite them. I'm the first line of defense between our subordinate clubs and the judges. So I generate the contracts, bring them into the fold, and make sure they're comfortable with coming to the U.S. So that was a pretty monumental event, because when I took over that position, there was no list of judges. It's kind of like, hey, you just have to know people. You just, everyone knows a judge, right? So, but there's no list that has every Rottweiler judge for Seeker shows. So that was a large undertaking, and I've got a list now through just talking to different people, and it's pretty comprehensive, and it's got judges from all the countries, so I can reach out at any given time and just, hey, would you like to come to this show and judge for this club? So I've learned a lot.
Gotcha.
Continue to learn a lot. So I'm actually going to run for that position again. So I'm up for re-election. But doing that, and I'm sorry if I'm taking up too much everyone's time.
No, keep going.
It's a lot. It's a lot to put in in a few seconds.
Right.
But I also started my own kennel. I'm not a very large kennel, so I do we have 2 to 4 litters per year.
How many dogs?
Mostly. I only have, at any given time, I'll have about 7 dogs.
Yeah.
So that's my self-imposed limit. I don't want to go I don't want to have too many because all my dogs live with us, so that makes it a little bit more challenging when you have to house break them all and you train them all. So it's it's a little bit of a challenge. But I also started North Florida Rottweiler Club here in Tallahassee. So we've held 8 Seeger shows at this point. We didn't have one last year. I'm sorry, we're not hosting one in 25. We had one in 24. So I'm considering having another one in 26 or 27. It's a lot of work to host an event. So it's pretty taxing financially, physically, you name it. So I just need a little break this year, but I'm still really involved because I'm also in the ARC also, along with Panama Citizen Club. So a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, I see. You got it going on, brother. Yeah. Brother Forte.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
About you, sir. Oh man, been involved. I've had Roddy since I was, like I told you before, I've had Roddy since I was 4 years old. Actually, 4 years old. They've been a part of my life on and off my entire life. Once I became an adult, about 9 years ago, bought my first Roddy. At the time, didn't know what I had, what it was. I just know I had a black and tan German Rottweiler. That's what I had. At least that's what I thought I had. I bought one, then bought another one. Shortly after that, I realized that I was going in no direction. I'm not even going to say the wrong direction. I was just wandering aimlessly. Started studying the breed, understanding the breed, and shortly after, I decided I really wanted to become a part of conformation shows. Just because I wanted to really get educated and understand more about the breed, but then also know what I have as a breeder. I started my kennel about 6 years ago is when I really decided to focus on breeding and producing my dogs. So I wanted to make sure what I was producing was of standard and was what I would say it was. Like if I say I have a great Roddy, I wanted to have something to back that up. So that's what really got me into conformation shows. Of course, I decided to breed. Now I have my kennel. I also do boarding and training for handling. So I'm traveling doing Seeger shows and AKC shows throughout the country most times of the year. Really just now starting to really get my feet wet in AKC. But like I tell Quinn and them all the time, I'll always be a Seeger guy. But I'm starting to really see the AKC, understand it more, and really wanting to get my feet out there. We also have our club as well. Myself, Cavante McPeters, and Tony Hall. We have TARC, which is my shirt right here, Texas Arkansas Rottweiler Club. We'll be hosting our second annual Seeger. We'll be hosting the Spring Seeger this year. It'll be in Central Arkansas in mid-March. And I got to say, Quinn helps make our job a lot easier. We don't. We don't have to try to find our own judges. He kind of has a list together to where we can look at the list and be like, oh, okay, let's try this one. Let's reach out to them. Let's talk with them. And so I appreciate him for that, because not only has he guided us with starting our own club and even in the Seeger ring, but he's really helped make our life easier when it comes down to hosting these events. Because like he just said, it is financially taxing. It takes a lot of energy, takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of time. And, without guys like Quinn, Miss Sue, Audra, it'd really be hard for us to do this. So I do want to, give those guys a shout out for what they've done for us in our club as we've, started to try to grow over the last couple of years.
Salute. Okay. Brother Terry, can you give us a brief introduction on yourself, sir?
Yes, sir. First, I'd like to pay homage to the mentors that have passed, that were very special in giving me the knowledge that they gave me. Joe Heddle, Dick McKinney, and I'd like to pay homage to those who know me, such as Eckhart Selquist and Jeff Howard, Dorothea Grunewald, and a few of those people who took me under their wings when I first started this journey. I got my first Rottweiler in 1985. So Quinn, I'm the OG. No, I'm just kidding. I was 17 years old. I was headed to college the following year. And being from the country like you guys are, I pretty much had dogs all my life. A variety of dogs, German Shepherds, even collies. I was just laughing the other day. I had a Yorkshire Terrier and didn't even know it was a Yorkshire Terrier at that time. And back then, we didn't have the Rottweiler Quarterly. We didn't have social media. We had the newspaper and a magazine that was sold in pet stores called The Dog World. And in that magazine, every month they would have a different dog on the front cover. And that particular cover, they had an interview and told you about that particular breed and breeders that were doing it, how they were doing it. It gave you all kinds of information about those dogs. And then you could go to the back, and that's where they had dogs for sale. And I started looking in that book because of the movie Omen, in which quite a lot of people look at. But I was fascinated because I always think of the Rottweiler like Old Yeller. I tell a lot of people that, only a Rottweiler. And yes, the dog may not have been what a Rottweiler was, but I think of him in that manner: protective, loyal, very intelligent. And so I got to the back of it, and there were people like the Von Evenmans, Kimbertall Rottweilers, John Bernard, Old World Kennels. And so I kept looking, and one day I decided I was going to get one, and I looked in the newspaper, and a guy by the name of Warren Cooper was selling the litter. And this is to show you how the things are a little bit different than they were back then. He was from Germany. He had a Konders son who was the ADRK Klub Sieger. And when he invited me to his home, I didn't see no dogs for about 2 weeks. And I was like, what? And he went into details about the breed, what he was breeding for, why the breed was being used. And he had Willie Hetke come over, which is an ADRK judge at that time. And I had a kennel there to do an evaluation of the litter. Now, keep in mind, all this stuff is, I just want a dog. I want a Rottweiler.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore, when he was mentioning things like the ADRK, I took it in, but I didn't take it in until I went off to college. And while I was in college, I was at a park. I can't remember the exact name of the park, but I was at a park and I seen these people working dogs. And it happened to be Eckhart Selquist. And from that moment, I began to learn a lot about the breed from a German aspect. I traveled to Germany several times, and in the beginning, it was more of the corons that we would go to versus the shows, which a lot of people go to the ADRK shows. But the people that I were going to the shows to ADRK with were more into the complete dog, which was the work and the look of the dog. Back then, when you were buying dogs or you were looking for dogs, most of the people who had these dogs were policemen or the military. The normal people were afraid of them. And it gained a pretty bad reputation. And by the time I got back and got married, I decided to move to Oklahoma. And I met, let me back up. I went to Oklahoma and I wanted to find another Rottweiler. And Eckhart would always tell me they're not all the same. They're not the same. And, you hear the things that he says, and a lot of people think about Eckhart as a mouthy person, but he was correct. He was straight. He's just a German, straightforward guy. And so I went out, and at that time, a dog by the name of Cannon River Oil Tanker was a popular winning dog. So I thought, okay, that's exactly what I wanted, right? And I got the dog. And at that time, we had came back to visit, and my dog had caught parvo. I left him with the breeder. And when we came back, again, I was blessed and fortunate. I met a vet, and we couldn't even see our dog until we seen movies. And come to find out, he worked for one of the wild reserves in California. And he explained to us how parvo worked, because at that time, they didn't have modified live or killed virus. Everything was live. And our breed is susceptible big time to parvo. So I learned a lot about that. And when I got my puppy, from them, we met some professional handlers by the name of Jerry and Bonnie Kilman. And if you know the show world, a lot of people who sell those dogs have show contracts. You have to do this, that, and the other, even though you wanted a Rottweiler. And so I said, okay, I'll go ahead and do it. And to make a long story short, from there we came, and the Mile High Rottweiler Club, they had a specialty. And at that time, there was not officially an ARC member club. There was getting their sanctioning matches. And I seen a dog there, and I kept trying to explain to Jerry and Bonnie Kilman, because the dogs that I seen here were like Remus and Seidler Flat, Morris van Oosterpfeifel. I seen Ambos in person, Von Evelins. I seen Benno. I seen Dux, and I just wasn't seeing it in the AKC ring. And when we seen Krugerrand, I came back. I told Jerry, I said, I seen this dog. Oh my God, this is a super dog. And as time went on, the way I got my feet wet is that we went to a show. They was training us, and I had a Nelson Van Brabenpark son, and his mother was Ironwood's Candid Citizen. Both of them was #1 at the time. And so I thought, I had what I wanted. And I'm not saying that the AKC dogs aren't any better, because I come from a time where the Duxes were in the show ring. I come from a time where the old school Rottweilers that were being imported not only did work on the field in Germany, they did work here on the field and maintain AKC championships, multi-best of breed, multi-group racing dogs.
Yeah.
And so as I moved forward with that, they one day told me, you're going to be showing your dog today. I said, yeah, I'm going to show him. And it's my first time in the ring. And they had already asked me, they said, you're pretty good with dogs. You ought to think about it. And so I at that particular show, I lucked out, because I really didn't think I knew what I was doing. And I got a 5-point major, right? And of course, when you win majors in AKC, everybody wants to think that you're a handler. And I didn't consider myself a handler, nor did I get into it for that. I just always thought about handling as to make the dog look the best that he can be, not me making the dog to appear that way. And so we went to the show, took a 5-point major, and they come rushing to me. Oh, you got to show my Australian Shepherd, because they showed some of the top ones in the country. I showed, and they talked me into it, and I was like, oh man. And you know, when I'm in the AKC ring or when I'm in the Seeger show now, if you see me with sweats, I have 2 rituals. One, I go and I throw up before I go into the ring, and then I'm good. And if you see me in baggy pants, if you took those off, I'm shivering and shaking, because I'm still scared to this day. And once I get in the ring, it's a different feeling. I don't even see anybody. It's just me and the dog.
Yeah.
So when I went in and I won Group 1, I was like, oh, wow, you know, I almost pooped on myself, if you know what I mean. And they was like, well, you got to take me up best in show. And I didn't even realize it was coming down to me and another dog. I was just excited to be able to show the dog. And to fast forward, I worked my way up with the help of Joanne Cochran, allowing me the opportunity to show and put my hands on Kruger, some of his last shows in veteran class. I got a chance to show one of his daughters by the name of Kayla, who was ranked in this country. And then I began to just explode in the AKC world. It's a difficult place for me because they do things differently than the Germans, and they do things differently in the Seeger show world here. There's a lot of grooming that takes place, and I'm just being honest. It's not to rub on their shoes, and I understand, because it's people's business, and it's a part of the game, but it does happen. And there were some opportunities that I had, and I've shown some dogs. I've been to the Westminster. I've had multi-group placing dogs. I've bred some good dogs. I've shown some of the nicest dogs from around the world. I've shown in Germany. I went to Yugoslavia when it was Yugoslavia and not Serbia, Bosnia. I seen Ramsey Krenilovis there. And then as time went on, you got a family and you have a life, and you kind of fade away from it. I also was into Schützen. I started with Gary and Carol Patterson. They wrote the Footstep book for tracking for dogs. And they asked me if I wanted to be a helper. But that's one thing I love about the people in the work. But at the same time, I hate it because they don't think the AKC people put as much work into their working dogs as they do. But I put my hats off to both of those who work their dogs, because at the end of the day, it's not a show dog. It's a protection guard dog.
Yeah.
And what makes it beautiful is the ability to be formed with its anatomy in the right manner that it can perform its job that it's supposed to do.
Hey, Terry, can I ask you something?
Yes, sir.
While you talking about that?
Yes, sir.
What is the original role of the Rottweiler historically?
A guard protection dog.
Okay.
And yes, they did do herding, but when people think of herding, they think of it in the aspect of a border collie, nipping around at the ankles and things of that nature. When you go back in history, these guys had farms that owned these dogs when they were using them for herding, and they were more used to keep away predators, thieves, and things of that nature, with the ability to still put the flock in its place, if you understand what I mean.
Right.
From there, from the working aspects, Schützen was designed for the German Shepherds. It was not the ADRK brought the means of Schützen in as a breeding apparatus. And I was explaining to some people today that a lot of us look at the top portion of the ZTP, the breed test, the breed standard evaluation, when in all actuality, the most important part is the bottom part, which tells you about the trainability, the tracking, and so forth. Because what it does is it has places in which the dog they believe should be in order for him to be a balanced dog in the brain. You hear a lot of people talk about temperament, but to me, there's two sides to that. There's character and temperament. You can have a full temperament dog over the top, but if he can think and you can control him through obedience and training, he'll do fine. But you can also have one that's beneath the table. That can be a nervy dog and things of that nature. And when they made these tests, that test was to help breeders in the future, because a lot of us haven't seen some of the dogs from the past. And when I came up, it wasn't about breeding. It was about finding the best stud dog for your female. AKC, sheep, Seeger shows, it didn't matter. If you had to go to the moon to find the best stud dog for your female, because she's the foundation of your breeding program. She's the foundation of your breeding. And not every dog is for every female. And so I grew up in a day and age where that was stressed. It wasn't about making money, even though people sold puppies. It was more trying to create the complete dog. And the complete dog is a working dog that has the beautiful structure to do the job that he's supposed to do.
What do you guys rank the Rottweiler in versatility amongst working breeds?
I'll take that one. I'll
do everything.
I would say, yeah, it's an extremely versatile breed. I mean, like Terry said, I'll jump on this grenade. So it's, you can work a Rottweiler. They can also sleep on your couch. You can take them out in public. They can do the police side of they can tap into that protection side if need be, but the police don't like to use them because they can be a little,
too much.
I wouldn't say ornery, but spacey. They're a little ADHD when it comes to staying focused sometimes. So for that reason, they don't like to use them, but they can be used for police work. My neighbors have cows. Their cows came in my yard one day. Instinctively, my dogs had zero fear of a 2,000-pound cow, and they pushed them back over the fence into my neighbor's yard and cornered them in that fence and said, "You stay there. You're not supposed to be in my yard." So they're an extremely versatile breed. I've only owned two types of dog in my life: a boxer and Rottweilers. And I'll tell you that I will forever own Rottweilers, I guess, at this point, because it's the breed that God has given me the most knowledge about. So they're, I mean, the protection, the tracking, the obedience side of it, everything. I mean, they're one of the most versatile breeds, if you ask me.
I agree with Quinn 100%, because I feel like as long as they have the clear mindset, the Roddy depends on what it's, whether it's working, whether it's tracking. I feel like as long as the Roddy has the right mindset, it can do just about anything. Because physically, structure-wise, and all of that, it has it. It has it. Again, depends on its genetics. Like Terry said earlier, every dog can't do everything. I believe like if they have the right genetics, right mindset, a Roddy there's nothing that it can't do. And that's just my opinion of it. And from what I've seen with Roddies. I've seen Roddies do bite work. I've seen Roddies do dock diving. I've seen Roddies do herding. I've seen Roddies do police work. I've seen them do confirmation show. I've seen them sleep in a bed with a 2-year-old. Like I've seen them do a lot of different things.
Right.
And that's what makes me love them so much.
Mm-hmm.
I believe I was talking with Terry maybe yesterday, and I was talking about like me doing AKC, and he was mentioning multiple breeds. I said, man, I can't touch nothing but a Roddy.
Right.
I can't show or touch a lead of nothing but a Rottweiler. And that might be my ignorance, but that's also my love for the breed.
Right. And that's a good thing. Because in the AKC, you all have a variety of judges that come through the system, the junior handlership, and the goal is to be a judge, believe it or not. And in order to become a judge, you have to breed that particular breed in which you're judging a certain amount of times. You have to be very knowledgeable of it. And then the next goal is to be in the group ring. And then be able to get in the group ring, you have to have so many of those particular classes, the working class, the terrier class of those dogs, as well as bred those dogs. And there's ways that you get around that. I also agree about the versatility. And I've had some dogs, including bulldogs, real bulldogs. And I don't think there's a more versatile dog. I know about the Labradors and what people do, and I'm talking about from their working aspect, how they hunt, how they maneuver, the German Shepherd. Because if you remember, as we were kids, there was no real Schutzen. There was no real shows back in those 80s, even though they were being done, we really didn't know. And when we would see these dogs owned by folks, the folks that we owned, everything was natural. They naturally knew to protect the family.
Mm-hmm.
They were naturally loyal. They were naturally loving towards the family. They were naturally aloof of people, strangers and their things, because what comes with loyalty means a marriage. And a marriage is between two people. A marriage is a family, right? So they take on that responsibility and they take it seriously. And that's why sometimes I believe that the breed and the temperament has been bred down, is because there really aren't for everybody. I know everybody wants one. Everybody wants a Canine Corso. Everybody wants a Presa. Everybody wants a Pit Bull. And you see everybody with it, but that's what makes the Rottweiler unique, because people have been able to adjust to that and put them in homes. And there are bloodlines that allow you to do that, just as well as there are bloodlines that allow you to work. And so the versatility comes at this day and age. It's wide, well spread. It doesn't matter what you want it to do. And they love doing it. They want to be told what to do. They love it because they're doing it for you. Yeah.
Right. Let me get this comment in here. They paying to show these. So if you're a Roddy breeder in the USA, you should get a GT title through the RKNA Rottweiler Club of North America in Germany. Can't breed without it. What do you guys think about that?
So I do think that's obviously a good breed test, and it would be ideal. Now, I wouldn't say that you have to go through RKNA. Why do you have to go through RKNA is my question. Because
the thing is, if you go through RKNA, the title's not recognized in Germany. So ZTP titles are only recognized within the confines of the border of Germany. So if you get it outside of there, they don't recognize. Just like the breed suitability evaluation that we do, it's with the BSE, it's not recognized anywhere else. Even if it's completed by a German judge here in the United States, it's not recognized by Germany. And I've mailed titles for my BSEs to Germany, gotten the title back, and they put it in the stud book, right? But it's still not recognized. So unless we had an ADRK like venue here, where all of the Rottweiler breeders in the United States were on one accord, and they said, yes, we're going to manage our breed ourselves. We don't need AKC. And then we started doing our own, we do a BSE, then we do a ZTP, then we do IPO1 or IGP1, whichever one you want to go with. So it's, yes, that briefs well, but you have to also look at Germany is also the size of Indiana. It's much easier to get something like that completed there. We have gatekeepers of knowledge here in the United States. So as far as getting a ZTP completed, it's a little bit more challenging because there's not as many Schützen clubs, and then we're not even allowed to call it Schützen anymore. It's that name is forbidden. For my club still calls it a Schützen club, but we all know it's a forbidden name. It's a forbidden for insurance purposes.
That's why they changed it. I've been wondering. Okay.
Yeah. So unless, if we had so many clubs, our density of clubs, of Schützen clubs in the United States is too wide. I can tell you, I can drop the club nearest me is 2 hours away. The next nearest club is 4 hours away. So unless a person is willing to put, and it's more than just going out to the club on one Saturday or one Sunday, that's a daily thing. You're trying to train a dog. You have to marry yourself to that dog, because you and that dog have to be one-on-one. So it's, I wish breeders in America would put ZT dogs, but I think that's a bridge that's too far. We're trying to get people to health test their dogs now. And that's a whole nother topic in itself, Joe.
Yeah. Okay.
Because, and I don't know if we want to go down. If we want to go down a rabbit hole, I will.
No. Oh, yeah. I just told the chat questions at the end.
And Joe, if I may, and I echo what Quinn said, that is a different rabbit hole.
Yeah.
However, let me put it this way: the breed clubs here, Forte, RKNA, USRC, and what used to be the ARV, offer the breed test. We, as a collective group, meaning all these clubs, profess to follow one thing, and that is the ADRK breed standard. We profess to follow the ADRK standard, and these clubs profess to follow the ADRK to a book. The ZPP is required to breed dogs in Germany. Do I believe that every dog should have that? Yes, I do. Why? The breed test is essential in breeding a good dog, a better dog. It tells you the number of teeth in the mouth, unlike the AKC. It tells you, are they crooked? It tells you the color of the eyes. It tells you the size of the ears. It tells you the length of the muzzle, the depth of the chest, the circumference of the chest, the length of the dog, the angles in the front and the rear, and most importantly, the temperament. And all those things help you breed a better dog, as opposed to just guessing because you've seen it at a show or because he barks in your backyard. Those things are essential in creating what I call the Rottweiler, which is the dog that I say comes from Germany, which is the dog that Germany is founded on. So to choose a club to do it, which I believe I know the USRC does, I know IRCA does, and I know the RKNA does. I believe that we at least, including myself, should put the breed test, whether it's the BSE with no bite work or the ZTP, which does have bite work. I believe it needs to be done. Everybody, like Quinn said, it's spread out. And it's a very difficult thing to go to Schützen, let alone have a a Rottweiler club, whether it be ARC or it be Seeger clubs. It's difficult, and it's difficult to find the group of people to put together that is dedicated to that and to train for that. Hats off to those who accomplish that, because that's not just every other week and then or 2 or 3 weeks before I go to the show start running my dog. That's something that requires training from the time they get that puppy every day, 2-3 times a day, depending on how far you want to take it. Whether it be PSA, whether it be the IFR, whether it be the DVD Nationals, whatever it is, it takes strong dedication. So hats off to them. But I will go a little bit into the rabbit hole.
Okay.
You can't force somebody to do something that they don't want to do.
Right.
You can't make a person that is able to do obedience with their dog at a good level and have control over their dog and tell them to go do a Schützentitle. There are people that desire to have the correct temperament and character, and when you see their dogs are well obedient. I know people that don't do none of it, and they don't need a sleeve to prove that their dog will protect them. They have protected them.
Hey, Mr. Terry.
Yes, sir.
With this type of tests and things like that, do the term that deters the watered down accusations when it comes to show dog and things like that? Do you think they can't be used, right? Watered down, that term.
That's why these questions get asked, right?
Right.
Is to differentiate those who do and those who don't.
Okay, yeah.
You understand? Those who show AKC and show UCI shows, those that do UCI shows get looked at different than those who do AKC shows. And the fact that people don't desire, or people are not in an area in which they can do the sport, and even to have the ability to train every day. When I say you doing Schützen, it's like working out. You can't skip. You go backwards. You got to have the proper helper, not just any helper. You yourself have to be well rehearsed in your handling ability. It all works together. It isn't just having the dog that goes out there and is willing to do the job.
Yeah, it's a trifecta of needs and wants. So
yeah,
everyone's got to be on the same sheet of music, because a bad helper can hurt your dog.
Sure can.
Yeah,
and even to find a good helper is difficult. You would have 100 people want to do a club, but you need a great helper. There's a difference in a decoy and a helper. A helper reads the dog, helps the dog along, helps the dog get to a point to where the dog should be and getting the best out of the dog. The decoy just takes bites, flaps on the sleeve.
Yeah. A helper should be able to give you relevant feedback to how to make your dog propel to the next level.
Right. To progress in the sport.
Yeah. Right. I truly believe, I was talking to Forte, and I said, I always say this, that I think we're creating multiple kinds of Rottweilers in the United States. When someone calls me, I tell them, hey, I have Seeger style dogs. And they're like, well, what's that? So just my humble opinion, a Seeger style dog, because of the pedigrees we're using and breeding to, they tend to have they're more of a sport dog. They tend to not be as big as your dogs that are commonly bred within the confines of the United States. They're smaller, they're sportier, they're more agile. They tend to be. Are there some bigger ones? Yes. But by and large, when people call me looking for a dog and they say, well, how big are your males? I say, 110 to 115. They're like, well, I'm looking for something bigger than that. I'm like, well, sir, I don't breed for size. I breed for correctness. I breed for what's going to take my kennel forward, not for, what someone wants. If you want a 150-pound Rottweiler, I'm not your guy. So that's getting that through to the general public and having them understand that I'm not the public breeder. I'm my breeder for myself. I'm breeding for bettering my kennel and bettering the breed, not so you can go make a TikTok video and have 150-pound Rottweilers on it. You know, so
Right.
so yeah, it's
Yeah.
And one thing I've noticed too is in America, when you tell someone, "Oh, my dog has a ZTP, IGP, and all that," when you start talking a bunch of working things, it makes some people standoffish as, "Whoa, this dog is going to be too much. They're going to be too drivey, going to be too much for me." But what people fail to understand is the dog goes through obedience before it even goes to the IGP, all of that working. So that dog has a clear mindset. Like I've imported a female. She had her IGP1, ZTP, all that. I had people that didn't want puppies because they thought she was going to be too much. When really, she was really the sweetest dog. She had a level head, good. I bred her to Rudy, Baumhaus New Brain. He's another ZTP, IGP3 dog. Well, yeah, I believe he has his IGP3. But either way, working dog. They were, "Oh, these dogs are going to be too much. They're going to be too edgy. Oh, I got kids. This dog, it's all about what you expose the dog to."
Right.
Echoing a little bit about what you said, Quinn, and it's disappointing to know that we're going off into these areas of a variety, like we have variety different breeds, when the dog, there should not never be no difference between the working dog and the show dog. They're one and the same.
Yes,
Right.
and the standard hasn't changed.
No.
Yep.
The
No.
standard, and that's the biggest thing. The standard has not changed.
Mhm.
But it's like America, or people in general, they're trying to start the new wave. They're trying to start the new trend and essentially change the breed to where they are making Rotties look different, act different. I've had some Rotties myself. They wouldn't bite a biscuit. Oh, you need to go find someone's couch because I need you to be willing to do something.
Right.
You got to do something around here.
Right.
And I feel like that, again, it could be the bloodlines. Well, I know it's the bloodlines, but it also can be what the dog's been exposed to.
Right.
yeah, and you know, kind of to echo on that, what Forte was saying. You know, I've got a dog. He's a hard checker, right? He's that Rottweiler that people want, right? He's got working titles, but I understand he is not for everyone. You know, he can't meet everyone, and that's him. You know, he's got more of what we probably consider an old school temperament. And Forte's met him along with some other people, but that's not for everyone. Matter of fact, he was I call him a boomerang dog. You know, I placed him as a puppy, knowing he was a little harder, and he came back to me at 15 months, and he's still here with me now. 2 years later. So everyone can't. If you're breeding that hard temperament, you're gonna have a lot of boomerang dogs. I'll promise you that, because everyone in America is looking for, not everyone, most people in America are looking for something that can integrate into their family situation, and it's not going to bite the neighbor's kid.
Yeah.
Right. Because another thing, the flip side of that coin is insurance purposes. A lot of insurance companies will not insure your home if you have Rottweilers. And especially if that insurance company does a little background work and figures out where the dog comes from, and they look on your page and the dog's biting people. Right. So, even still, the Rottweiler should be able to do all facets of things. It should be able to work. It should be able to integrate into your family. And if you want to do the show side of it, hey, go do a few shows. But that dog still needs to be a member of your family. That's where it's going to learn how to be a proper Rottweiler, if you ask me.
Gotcha.
Not being placed in a kennel and left to just grow old or chained to a tree, whatever the case may be.
Yeah. Need some kind of stimulation.
It has to be. It can be a very dangerous animal if you don't stimulate it.
And you have to understand, it's not just the insurance, it's the people. What do I mean by that? When you start talking about protection guard dogs, you're talking about wanting one for deterrent.
Yeah.
You're not talking about buying a big laxy-daisy St. Bernard, who can be very deadly, okay? You're not talking about an oversized Labrador Retriever You're talking about when you start to think that about the Rottweiler, he follows a big old dog that's going to bark in the backyard or from my window and deter people from coming there. So when they begin to get the Rottweiler and realize these temperaments, some of these dogs and some of the dogs today, the bloodlines today, produce an animal who has a natural guard instinct, who is being taught. And these things, those people want to shy away from that because they still want to be able to walk with their dog. When they don't understand, you still need obedience with these dogs, strong hands with these dogs.
Right.
And you should have strong hands with these dogs because that's what they are.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they are.
Yeah.
You know, it ain't no big secret.
Yeah.
But the problem is there's so many people, and I'm going to say it, the breed has been monetized.
Yeah.
Period. In the story. They're cute little old cubby dogs, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't get to see them run around your house nipping at your shoes before they get them. And then when they get them, right, if the breeder hasn't told them, and even if the breeder tells them, I can still handle this, right? But guess what? Every day he's growing. And without a firm hand, that turns into the next thing.
Yep.
And then it turns into the next thing.
Yep.
And before long, he's not your little bitty baby puppy.
Yep.
He's your 9-month disaster because you didn't understand what you were getting. You didn't have the mentorship on how to raise the puppy correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And now the boomerang effect, or guess what? He's given away to somebody else. The breeder gets a call back. And that's why I say it's not for everybody. Because you can have somebody telling you all the knowledge in the world about the dog. It's up to the breeder to tell you, no, it's just not for you.
Yeah.
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 And you know,
100%.
Terry, it's funny you say that because for that reason, I'm very, very uber selective about where my males go. For you know, females, in my opinion, you can place females and they'll look. There's a lot of, not a lot. There's some room for error when it comes to females versus males. Females tend to integrate themselves in the families a little bit better, from my experience, with the lines I'm dealing with. Males, they can be a challenge for the inexperienced Rottweiler person, and I'm uber selective about where they go. Like I will flat out tell a person, no, my son, you know, if you want to consider a female, yes, especially if you're a first time Rottweiler owner. You know, I consider myself an experienced Rottweiler owner, and I still prefer females because it's just, they're easier,
Gotcha. Brother Forte, I have a question. This question's for all you guys, but I want Forte to start it out. Form follows function. I want you to break down what that means. And does form comes behind, trucking up behind function, or does function follow right with it like a shadow? Can you
where there's good structure, there's good movement. If that's what you're alluding to, you're talking about the overall structure.
The overall, yeah. Why
if the dog has overall good structure, the likelihood of it having good movement is extremely high because everything is there. If the rear is correct, if the front is correct, if top line, if everything is what it should be, the dog should move the way that it's supposed to. Is that what you're asking? Essentially,
Yeah.
Is the structure translate? I've always believed that correct structure translates to correct movement.
Mm-hmm.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Quinn or Terry.
I'm going to add to it. Go ahead, Quinn.
All right. So I'll tell you that a properly structured dog is really hard for most people to see, including some breeders. And just, I'm going to put this out there.
Do it, bro.
I think figure shows teach you more about the overall structure of a dog versus the AKC format.
100%.
And that's to me, just, me entering some of my dogs in AKC shows, I don't get that feedback of, hey, Quinn, this is what your dog was missing. This is what your dog had. This was a great characteristic that your dog had. If I go to a Seeker show, man, my skin better be this thick.
Yep.
And I better not have, I better not be a person that cries a lot, because that judge,
you can't be soft. You can't be
if
soft.
they're an honest judge, they're going to dissect your dog and they're going to tell you hey, this is the form of dog you have. This is what you have in front of you. Hopefully you know that, and hopefully you can take what they're giving you and gain knowledge from it, because some people have really thin skin. They think the judge is just tearing a dog apart, when in fact there's no perfect dog, right? We all know that. As breeders, we all know that. We just strive to try to get the Adonis or the Athena of dogs, but there's no perfect dog. We're always striving for that one dog that we bred in our life that's like the incredible one. But structure, a properly structured dog is the key to your success.
Yeah.
And if you can't see that, you're really behind the eight ball.
I think it goes for not only for Seeger and confirmation shows, but for workability too. The dog has to be structured properly to be able to perform particular jobs, to be able to have that proper rear push. Even when we go to head type and muzzle and mount, you got to be able to have the proper proportions. You got to have that 1 to 1.5. And I believe that's there because they're supposed to be able to bite. They're supposed to be able to work and breed properly. All of it plays a part. If you have a properly structured dog from front to back, I believe it will be able to perform any task physically that you are looking for it to perform.
Yeah. So when you
I'm going to add a few things.
Yeah.
I don't know how much Quinn has shown in the AKC. I've shown quite a bit. And what I learned was that balance is different than structure.
Okay.
What do I mean? Every breed has a breed standard, and that structure applies to that dog. Forechest, shoulder lay, top line, compact, moderate angles in the rear, slightly croup, right? Strong neck, head type, everything, right? As Quinn said, there's no perfect dog, but the standard gives you a blueprint on how he should look.
Yep.
How a dog moves according to him being balanced, meaning a dog can have great forechest and be long in the body and have a little bit more turn of stifle rear angulation with a longer high and still move as though he's moving correctly. When the Rottweiler is a free-floating trotting dog. It's not one that is supposed to overextend his rear nor his front. He should be built in a manner in which displays power and strength when he moves. Compact, spring of rib. Spring of rib is used so that the dog, as a working dog, gets more air into the muscle flow of the veins. The muzzle is supposed to be 1.5 based on to help that dog breathe, and because he does protection, guard work, bite work, right? A shorter muzzle cannot grab an arm or a leg as much as a muzzle with the correct length of muzzle. So when you say form and function for the breed, I see a lot of breeders hip haul an array for a dog is overextended in the movement. And I'll just say it, some of them include Seegers and Seegers and Seegerins. The standard says free floating trotter. There are many dogs based on their actual function, on the way that they're built. They actually float, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are dogs that, because we are not knowledgeable enough on anatomy, on the correct structure of our breed, that dogs get through and pass as top dogs. There are very few top dogs, in my opinion, and they're Club Seeger winners. There are very few top AKC dogs, and they're Westminster winners. Just because the dog is balanced doesn't make him correct. There's a description, there's a standard, and within that standard, they have an ideal portion, the correct portion of the dog. I think breeders begin to push a dog because they like a dog. You see that more often in the AKC, less than you see in the Seeger Show worlds, based on, as he said, the critiques. The critiques are telling you what you have. Strong paws, short body. It's a description of your dog. And when you begin to understand the wording of the standard, clearly you can match your critique to the standard and see what's missing from your dog, or what your dog has that is great. Because I see a lot of great fronts talking about Forte, and that's part of the standard. I also see a lot of horrible fronts. They don't have no forechests. And confirmation of the Rottweiler is a medium, large, compact dog. But I also see that we forget the temperament, the anatomy, the brain.
Yeah.
Because see, you can be correct and not have the will to push as a working dog. You're just a big Pooh Bear sitting on the couch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you can be as correct as you want to in structure, but if you ain't got no temperament or character,
Desire to do it, desire to work. You got to want it. They got to want it. They got to have it in them to want to do it.
Like the drive, right?
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
And that's genetics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
That is 100% genetics.
100%.
yes.
Right.
And to see that we're venturing off into, we got these extreme workists over here, and we got these extreme show people over here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about the head type. I'm talking about, oh, I just need to show. And that dog, or if your dog ain't nothing, if it don't work, it's what's separating the breed.
Yeah. Talk to
You're
him.
right. You're 100%, because when I go to the working club, you know, I wouldn't say I'm necessarily shunned, but you know, I get the Quinn. Why do you show your dog? Like, he's so great at the protection side. Like, why do you do that stuff? And I tell them that's the way you learn a breed. You know, you learn the actual breed of the dog you own. I said, and I tell them, because I look at their dogs and I can't help but dissect their dogs. I look at their dog, I'm like, wow. Like, you know, instead of a 60-40 muzzle ratio, I'm looking at a dog that's like 70, well, we'll say 55% on the head, and the muzzle's like a gun. It's like a gunshot. It's like a shotgun. It's like a shotgun.
Right.
And I look at the dog, and I look at the rest of the dog. I'm like, this dog just falls apart everywhere else I look. But all they care about is the fact that this dog will bite a sleeve. And I get it. You know, hey, I'm not knocking it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just bringing it to light that, you know, we're really in America. We're going like the opposite direction of the European way, and we have a pretty couch dog, we have this Seeger dog, and we have the working people out, and they're even a smaller segment of the Rottweiler world, because most clubs you go to have Malinois and Shepherds and Dutch Shepherds, and yeah, you know, for them to see a Rottweiler, like, I haven't seen one of these at a Schützen club since 1990, right? That's what most people tell me.
Yeah.
And then you pull up with a dog with a tail, they're like, oh my God, where did you find that Rottweiler with the tail? They're like, what?
Is that full-blooded Rottweiler?
Yeah, that's the first question they ask. So what does he mix with? Mastiff? Or what is he? You know, because he has a tail. Yeah.
And you know, let me tell you what's really sad about it is neither side understands that genetically we're getting further and further away from what we truly should be breeding together as one. Mm-hmm. See, when you rush over there as an extreme workist and you're still capable of going to the show because you have the near basics of a V rating, meaning black mouth, dark eyes, strong feet, large ears, correct shape of eyes, maybe not compact, moves well, versus on the other side, doing that for is the show. What happens is we don't realize that we're genetically changing the look of the dog. Mm-hmm. It's a hell of a working dog. And as I said, hats off for those who do work these dogs. But I seen Hassan. I seen Dingo von Swaggerwappen. I seen Morris von Fuster. I've seen Ambos. I've seen Gringo von Oberfelserwald. I've seen some of these dogs that I think which pictures, social media don't allow people to see. I've handled some very nice dogs that work just as good as that 64 centimeter dog. See, I don't think people realize that there was a time and day and age that because Germany wanted to compete at a high level, that they began to breed for a smaller dog because the sport is not for a Rottweiler.
Yeah.
We have participants, we have great working dogs because they're capable of it, but the sport wasn't designed. So what happens is they're being tested as though they are German Shepherds, Dutch Shepherds, and Rottweilers. A hold and bark is a hold and bark. That means you're supposed to stop the man, alert you, not run down the field 3,000 yards, hollering and screaming. And the Rottweiler does that. He stops the man, right? He's a stronger built dog. And again, the way that the breeds work are different mentally. The Malinois works different, was bred differently than the Rottweiler. So why are we trying to make it work like a Malinois?
Right.
Good point. Yeah.
On the show side, why are we trying to make couch potatoes, meaning just show dogs, not have them do other things that would express the work ability in them? So it is to the point to where we are breeding confirmation dogs that are away from the standard as well because of the heart, the temperament, and the character. So that's the biggest thing that I see going on while we're being separated. I actually think sooner or later we're going to have two different types. I mean, solidified different types. The working side, because now you got the PSA, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got Mondo.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, you got what people call the Pugweiler versus the real Rottweiler. And it's no disrespect. I just think it's a lack of education and the fact that when something is monetized, we milk it. We milk it.
Yeah.
What's happening is certain dogs have been popular through either money, through their greatness, et cetera, to the point to where everybody follows the leader. And we shouldn't be following the leader.
Terry, let me insert this question right quick. You've been in a long time. Didn't you guys go through that wave of when there was an oversaturation of breeding at one point in time? And how did the breed recover from that?
It hasn't.
Okay. Okay.
It hasn't. The reason I say that it hasn't is because what I came up, like I said, when I would hear conversations or when people would be discussing things, it wasn't, I'm going to do my next several breedings. They were planning to find the next best dog for their female. They would pass on the number one dog, pass on this over and over. There's today, backyard breeder, which is what people call it, right? As those people caught on a long time ago. When you would call somebody and they would tell you, I can't breed to your dog because you don't have your health certificate. And at that time, it was just hips. Then it went from hips to elbows. Then it went from hips, elbows to eyes and heart. Now it's JLPP. And that is a selling point. As well as it's good for the breed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Multi V1 rated is not about no longer looking at the dog's confirmation to see if it fits you. That's the dog to get a puppy from.
Yeah.
The number one AKC dog has to be the best dog for us who I'm on a breed to as opposed to finding the best dog for your female, as opposed to saying, no, I know my male's bloodlines, and he's not, it would not work out well for your female. We don't have that happening anymore.
Right.
We have people making a butt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you said something very important about the health testing and things like that, and
Yes,
we
sir.
should do it. But it is a selling point. It really is a selling point nowadays. It's used most are put off in the front to sell instead of something. Them not questions people ask normally. That's usually something in the back end you get into. But yeah, it is a selling point. I wanted to point that out.
Yes, it's definitely a selling point. It's like anything in life that's a selling point, right? Mine's a little bit better because it has this.
Right.
Mine's a little bit. I know people that got all kinds of health certificates on their dogs, and their dogs won't do the job. But guess what? They're selling puppies based on their health clearances. But it is needed for our breed. The ARC required 4. Am I correct, Quinn? Because I don't belong to the ARC.
Yeah, so they require eyes, eyes, hips, elbows, eyes, heart, and JLPP.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, man, I just got to touch on it. So there's more than that, because I'll tell you, I've used some great dogs, and because of using those great dogs, you know, I'm one of those health test Nazis. And I do it because I want to know what's behind my dogs and what's you know, I don't want to get dogs back because they're sick or something like that. But anyway, there's so much more than just those tests, and that's what's so profound is that they don't push that part. But none of the clubs don't push that hey, you need to test for degenerative myelopathy, leukoencephalomyelopathy, neural axonal dystrophy, and JLPP for Rottweilers, because those things it's just as bad. If you look up what happens with a dog that has limp, a lot of the dogs I've used have one of those things. They're carrier of limp, they're carrier of NAD, they're carrier of JLPP. And if you double those things up, man, you're gonna smoke your client when you sell the dog. But you know, we're not in America, we're not adapting at a fast enough rate to catch up and test for those things, because it's.
But I also feel like
it's vital.
the AKC doesn't require us to, and as long as it doesn't require people to, people are going to do the least possible to still be able to produce their puppies and you know, take care of their clients. That AKC doesn't require anything. Like you could breed a 10-month-old male and female together with no health test, and the AKC still going to register those puppies. Yeah. That's the issue. Yeah. Like that's really one of our biggest issues is we have nothing like over in Germany where they have the breed warden. We don't have anything like that to really try to cut down on, I hate to say this, but the BS. Like, and as long as we don't have anything that's going to try to cut that down, it's going to be an ongoing issue here.
Right. Let's move into another segment, and it's the Rottweiler breed standard. Now, how many standards do you guys have, or which ones you go by?
There's one.
There's one standard.
There's one. Yeah, okay. There's always been one.
Y'all ever seen this before? One standard. Okay. Has it had changes down through the years? What's up? Give me an overview of the standard. Quinn, you want to start with that?
All right, so I'll start. I'll hit it. So, which part of the dog? So you break it down into so many different parts. So I'll start with the head. The ears. There's 3 different kinds of ears you're gonna have on a Rottweiler, but they should all be close form fitting to the head, but you can't see daylight through the ears. All right, and that's what really gives the overall arching pretty head, right? The pretty head concept. So you have the ears, then you have the eyes. The eyes, we rate the eyes. The eyes can go anywhere from a 1A, which is your darkest, probably like your eyes, Joe. I'm not staring at your eyes, but I'm just giving you as an example. Okay. So you have your eyes, and then it goes 1A, 1B, and you go all the way up. The highest you should breed a Rottweiler is a 3B. So once you get into the 4A, 4B, 5A, 5B, that's what we call the yellow eye dogs. Those dogs should never be bred. They should be removed from the breeding program. For lack of better words, culled from breeding. Then you come down to the muzzle. So we talked about the 1 to 1.5. So if the muzzle is a 1 and the head is a 1.5, that ratio we say is a 60-40. 60% on the head, 40% on the muzzle. And that's a whole nother conversation about Pugweilers we can go into. But anyway, and then you get and then you get into the nose. The nose should be black, right? We have some snow nose out there, but many is white, but it should be black. Then you get into the mouth, right? The dog should have 42 teeth, and it should be a scissor bite, not an underbite, overbite, not a level bite, a scissor bite. The lower incisors and top incisors should interlock. Right? Well, I'm sorry. The top incisors should come slightly over the bottom incisors, right? Just slightly, and it should look like that. But anyway, in the dogs, the molars should not be twisted in the mouth when you get down to the molars. Now, the one difference you'll have with the AKC standard, correct me if I'm wrong, Terry, is that you can be missing a tooth in AKC.
Right? Yes, and it used to be 2.
Yeah. So for Seeger, if you go in there with missing tooth, the only way that's going to be viable is if you have an IGP-1 on that dog. A ZTP doesn't count. So if you go in there, you have an IGP-1, you miss your tooth, the judge is going to say, "Hey, got it. You're in working class. That's good." All right. Anyway, so we have the head. We could touch on the markings, but we all know the Rottweilers have the dots over their eyes, the markings on the face. They should be very distinguished, right? Not muddy. And we have some people that like these muddy dogs. Muddy being really dark complected dogs with the markings. Instead of it being a true rust, tan, or mahogany, it's a little bit more, just not as defined.
I saw one like
so
that.
Yeah, that's not proper. That's not correct. And then the biggest thing about it is going to be the dog should be dry. And that's the biggest thing. The biggest misconception about Rottweilers in the United States is, for some reason, America at large likes these big, wet Rottweilers. Wet meaning loose, wrinkly skin. I mean, the dog looks like my shirt. That's what the skin looks like. It should be tight. All right. I don't breed the wet dogs. If your dog's wet, I'm not breeding to it. So I don't care how many working titles I have. If it's a wet dog, I'm not bringing that into my breeding program. But we have breeders out there that don't know that. They consistently breed to these wet dogs. I think we pretty much covered the head. We can come on down. I guess I'm painting a picture of this dog in my head. So you come down at the withers. And I like to do this. So this is the dog's shoulder layback, right? It should be, I can't remember. I'm probably forgotten more than I'm remembering right now. But the shoulder layback should be like this. And we were talking about form over function. So if I look at a dog and this is the head and this is the shoulder layback, and the dog's shoulder blades are like this, that dog is not properly structured, right? So the shoulder layback, you look at the shoulder blades, it should be like this, all right? And it should be some form of a forechest on that dog. What a problem I've seen with a lot of Rottweilers is they look like this, and this is the head of the dog, and there's no forechest. The dog's feet are essentially at the front of the body, and that's an improperly structured Rottweiler. There are some that can overcome that when they move because they're make it up in some other areas, but a properly structured Rottweiler is going to have the proper layback. All right. And then you come back, a Rottweiler should be 9 tall, 10 long, right? It shouldn't be 11 long, 12 long. And what I mean by that is in the loin, it should not be longer in loin. And we'll find that some people gravitate toward longer dogs. In my opinion, the standard calls for 9-10. So 9 high, 10 long. Come down to the rear angulation of the dog, it should be a slightly sloping croup. There are some people that like board flat croups where you can essentially set a board. That is not proper. Setting a board on the dog and it has no croup, no slightly sloping croup. I just think that dog's not properly structured. You come down to the stifle. There should be a bend in the stifle because that bend in the stifle is what's going to allow the dog to propel itself when it's coming at a target, when it's trying to go over an obstacle. A dog that has no bend in the stifle, It's not properly structured. And then you come down to the hocks. The hocks should be vertical. They shouldn't be leaning. They shouldn't be leaning in the back. They should be straight up for the hocks. And then the one thing that is really forgotten about on Rottweilers are the feet. The feet should be tight, very tightly knuckled feet. Loose splayed feet, I call it. When the feet are splayed, the energy of that dog, because when that dog is running, the energy is better. It's better moved through the dog when the feet are tightly knuckled. And then, of course, some people forget about doing the dog's nails, right?
Yeah.
If you keep the nails short, the dog will have proper the feet will be properly aligned, and if the pasterns won't be falling in the pasterns, which in front of the feet. And then easty-westy dogs. I see so many wet easty-westy dogs feet in the front like this, right? The dog should be properly aligned. I mean, how many track runners do you see that run flat-footed or a heel strike, or they run, with their feet out like this? The properly structured track runner runs with their body in alignment, and the dog should move the same way. Come down to the tail. Of course, that's open for debate. So it calls for a saber tail, right? So as long as the tail comes up, it can come over the top slightly, as long as it doesn't touch the body. And if it deviates from the center line, of course, we call it a disqualifying tail. But it should not come over the top, come off the center of the dog's skeleton. Trying to think of what else. And then you get into temperament. So the temperament of dog, it should be aloof. A Rottweiler should be aloof. It shouldn't be I call it a nuisance barker. A dog that's just gonna announce itself, far too much. It should be aloof, and that's what it calls for a dog that is sure of itself, not one that is skittish. A Rottweiler shouldn't be skittish. That's not the temperament of a Rottweiler. But the temperament goes even a lot further, if you ask me, because a Rottweiler should be willing to work. And that's often the part that's missed, that most people miss, is that it should be able to work. And that work, it depends on how that person really defines work, right? Some people define it by way of schützen. Some people define it by way of herding dogs, herding animals, herding cattle, herding sheep, whatever the case may be, protecting sheep. But it should have a job. And that is all part of the standard. I'm sure. I mean, that's an abbreviated. I mean, it goes a lot farther than that.
Right.
Terry, you can, or Forte, you guys can.
Forte, you want to go next?
In.
Just main things you want to.
Man,
people need to know.
I really don't even know how I can piggyback off of that with Quinn.
Yeah.
He really hit all the points that, because I was obviously going to mainly discuss structure of it from the tip of the nose to the tail. And there's nothing I could say that I would add to what he said. Of course, temperament, that's huge. That's most important, really, when you want to talk about the complete Rottweiler. As Terry always mentions, the complete Rottweiler. Temperament is everything. You can have all the structure in the world. You can be perfect from the tail to the tip of the nose, but if in between your ears isn't right, you're not going to be the true complete Rottweiler.
Gotcha. Brother Terry, you want to chime in?
About the only thing that I would chime in is spring of rib. That is something that you see a lot of dogs lacking today, and that's kind of based on some of the things that Quinn was talking about. The description of the dog says it's a medium large at 65 and a half, 66 centimeter dog, compact, powerfully built, and then it goes into some other things. Today in the Rottweiler world, we see no fronts. We see wide dogs, but we don't see spring of rib. We see narrow croup. In order to be compact, the rear must match the front. And the spring of rib, short loins. Other than that, as Anthony said, he hears me all the time. In order to be the complete dog, you must show the willingness to work and protect and guard your family and operatives, right?
Yeah. Yeah, y'all one of the breeds that really got emphasis on the on showing the work inside. You know.
Well, the reason for that I believe it's that way is because that's what they were intended for.
Right.
And in order to do that job well, yes, it has a lot to do with the way that the dog is built. But I like to tell people when they're talking about anatomy, let's not forget the brain,
Mm-hmm.
because the willingness to work and the willingness to be trainable.
Yeah, trainability is huge.
Yeah.
Yes, to work.
Trainability.
Yes, it's part of the Rottweiler. Um, it sucks because there used to be a time that all was needed was obedience, because a lot of these things the Rottweiler did on his own.
Just had it. Yeah, they just
Yep.
genetically had it. They
Yep.
just had it. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So complex, you in the comments heavy. I see you, bro. So this is what we're gonna get into next is the lines of the Rottweilers. If you guys don't mind sharing a little bit about the lines you run, why you run them, the differences in countries of origins and all this good stuff. Forte, you want to crack that one off?
Oh yeah, man. I use a handful of different lines. I use some lines from Serbia, and one of the reasons I do use some of those lines is because I did like the correct head type. You know, the good cheek feel, the nice head, dark mouth pigment. They were a nicely structured dog overall. Now the thing is I noticed they wasn't doing a lot of work with those dogs, and a lot of the lines that I would use as far as the Serbian lines. A few years ago, I decided, okay, let's dabble with some German lines. So I got a daughter. My buddy and I, Cavante, we got a daughter, Vetus vom Haus Neubrain, which is Vetus is a very famous German dog, ZTP, IGP3, every amazing, complete, like Terry says, a complete Rottweiler. And I wanted to add that into my program because I was wanting more drive, better temperament, more intelligence. And I feel like that a lot of the German lines, that's where we get, where I see it. Like I have a dog now with me. His name is Knox. He comes from 100% German pedigree, 100%. His dad is Henry. His mom is Lisa von Ivanhouse. I actually own Lisa's mother, who is Queen B von Kummelsley, who is 100% German as well. And I'll say this dog has the best temperament I've seen. This dog, I picked him up from Indiana back in, I want to say, at late summer. After having him for a couple of days, I instantly realized this dog had nerves of steel. This dog has temperament. His temperament was outstanding. Like it was just a great overall dog as far as his mindset. And I feel like that has a lot to do with the German bloodlines that he has. Every dog in his pedigree, they've done their BH, their ZTP, their IGP. They've even done their show titles as well. And so, with that being said, I've used a handful of Serbian lines mixed with some of my some German lines, even of course some Croatian lines as well, with some of the Edelstein lines. So I'd like to say with me, I have a mixture of lines. And I feel like every one of them essentially they bring something to the table.
Gotcha. Thank you for that $2. I owe you $1, Forte.
You don't owe me nothing, brother. The only thing I ask is next time, help me be able to put my kennel name below my name on this screen.
Oh, okay, yeah,
like
yeah,
everybody else. I feel
yeah.
Oh, my bad.
I'm like,
well, why don't you tell them what the name of your kennel is right now? Anyway,
we're Rottweilers vom Haus Forte out of Central Arkansas.
Hey, Doug, can you pull that up and throw it in the chat, and then I'll throw it on the screen, bro? I appreciate it.
Yeah, I saw Terry's name. I saw Quinn. I said, dang, man, I saw Joe's too.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Doug pretty dog. Hey, look at here. Doug already been on it.
Oh, he owned it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He been dropping.
And put Vom Haus. VOM Hey, and
Okay.
appreciate you, Doug. You on
Yeah,
it for
yeah.
real.
Hey,
I
yeah,
appreciate
Doug, co-producer of this show. So if
Oh, yeah.
wherever y'all kennels is, he putting it in the chat. He getting whatever information he can find on you, he posting it.
And we
you.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But yeah, man, I feel like different bloodlines have something different to bring to the table. It's all about what you want as a breeder and what you are looking to produce.
Gotcha.
Some people don't want a high drive dog. Some people don't want a big lazy. Like, it's all about what you're looking to produce. And I feel like with most lines, they all have, outside of a couple lines, they all have something that they can bring to the table that can help improve our breed.
Right. Brother Quinn, what you running over there and why?
I am not brand loyal, so I look for the dog that is going to improve what my bitch needs. So
Yep.
I don't care if the dog's from Germany, because I've seen some dogs from Germany that don't fit the bill. I've seen some that do fit the bill. I've seen some dogs from Italy that don't fit the bill and do fit the bill. I mean, you name the geographic region. You know, I probably have something in my pedigree. I can assure you I have something in my pedigree from that area. So I'm not an all ADRK person. You know, I'm not an all Croatian person. I'm not an all Serbian person. I'm not an all Italian person. I look at what my bitch needs and what that male can bring to the table. And the benefit of not having an internal stud is I can take my bitch of merit to this male over here in Washington State or New England or California, wherever the case may be, because I know what she needs, and that's all going to be based on, you know, what the citizen judge told me my dog needs, you know, or what the FCI judge told me my dog needs. So yeah, I don't pander to a particular region when it comes to Rottweilers, and that's just, you know, you paint yourself into a corner when you do that, and that's the problem. That is, I will tell you, talking with some German judges on the way to the airport, taking them back after a show, they'll tell you, hey, listen, then they say we in ADRK, we have a problem, and this is speaking from their vantage point, because they've allowed so many of their nice males to leave, right? And you can't breed to a dog over a certain age, right? If you look at generations 5, 6, and 7 of a lot of their pedigrees, you're going to start creating genetic anomalies because they're quadrupled and quintupled up on certain dogs. And that's why they're now allowing other dogs that have ZTPs and IPOs to come into their gene pools, because you continue to paint yourself into a corner when you don't allow yourself to breed out. So yeah, if you use all ADRK dogs, eventually you're gonna have to go out. And if you don't, you'll reap the wrath eventually. And if you use all Serbian dogs all the time, you're gonna eventually paint yourself into a corner. So yeah, that's just my humble opinion. But I think it holds true too.
Terry, what do you think?
I've in the 30 plus years I've experienced them all. I was one of the first people to bring, along with Diane Ramirez, Aaron Tabor, and a few other people's servant dogs in this country. I've had some good servant dogs for its looks, character, and temperament. I've had some poor ones. I've had some terrific German dogs that I imported from Germany, and I had some that maybe not had the P1s. I use German lines for a reason. And the reason I use German lines, and I know Serbian dogs' history going well past the Bronco di Duvecchias, which in most people's pedigrees is probably 7, 8 generations back. But the reason I like using the German bloodline is because of their system, the ADRK system. And the ADRK has a database, and they've been documenting dogs from the beginning of time when it started it. And the database will give you information on what they look like, what they produce. It's a book of knowledge, actually, when you start talking about pedigree, when you go backwards, and you can always research and find it. The Serbians, as of to late over the last years that I've seen, have started doing things outside of databases. And a lot of that comes from people are getting more knowledgeable about the dogs because they're purchasing them. They're going to the shows, participating overseas in these shows. They get a chance to meet these serving judges, but they can still only get so much information. The ADRK, you can just about find out anything about any dog's siblings, any dog's siblings' offspring, their offspring, as far as you want to go back, as far as documentation. There is a program now called the Working Dog EU, and it has Rottweilers, German Shepherds, and you can do the same thing there. But the database, to me, is like having God answer your questions when you and he able to be specific to you about a certain dog. And I just see that the Serban pedigrees, you is just one of those that some of the dogs you lack knowledge of for what they produce, what they truly look like, even the documentation on them, right? I come from a time and era where they did have fake titles. I mean, you can't get an IPO without a B8, but dogs were crowned that. But they've come so far now. They're doing a lot better on documentation. They're doing their titles as best they possibly can. There is not too much of that going on, but that's why I choose the ADRK line over any other line.
Gotcha.
Okay. And man, I wish we all had a system like that, Terry. And I do like you are referring to the German stuff, not
yes,
the German stuff, the database, the ADRK database. And I've gotten on there and looked at it. Whenever I was getting into the German lines, I got on there and looked at it, looked who was breeding what dog to what dog. You can go in and see the productions from that litter via in that database, or you can just go get on social media. Because it'll tell you who the breeder is, who owns it. It gives you all the information you need to help make a better educated and informed decision on who you want to breed your female to.
Exactly.
So I can agree with that. Having all of that information just right there, it makes it so much easier, because I have had pedigrees where I'm looking 2 weeks to try to figure out what this dog in the 5th generation even looked like.
Yes.
Like I want to see it all. You know what I mean? I hate getting on the database and looking, and I see pictures of every dog, and then I got like 6 dogs I can't find pictures of, and now I'm like, man, what is there that I'm not seeing that could come back and bite me on the back end, because I don't know. I don't have knowledge of it.
Yes, and it rates everything. It rates what the dog produces for his eye color, for his bone, temperament, character, ear set. It does it all.
Yeah, I was actually the first time I got into it, I was actually kind of impressed, because I'd never seen anything so organized like that, where it was like just public information. Yeah, like it's all here. Hey, if you want a puppy from that, hey, here's a link. Hit this button and you can contact the breeder.
Yeah, all of it.
And I wish we had something like that over here. I wish we could get it together to where we had a collective club and database where we can just put all of this information to, so people could make better informed decisions when it comes down to breeding.
Well, I'm sorry, guys. I got puppies. They acting a fool back there, but go ahead.
Yeah, that would require transparency on the breeder's part.
Oh, and a lot of people struggle with that.
Yeah.
Say it again.
It would require transparency on the breeder's part, because
one
a lot
more
of breeders
time.
they don't want to make things public information. Everything's a secret. It's a gate. You have to have, you're behind this little gate, and you can't look on the other side of that gate. Yeah. Yep. So because a breed, if we had to have a breed warden in the United States, it would create. I wouldn't want to be the person that's having to go look at litters because you're trying to figure out where people are hiding dogs, or hiding puppies, because dog base is going to give you that. It's going to tell you what the siblings of that dog rated from hips and elbows, right. Unlike, right now, if a dog fails OFA, you don't know it. because they may never submit those scores to OFA.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Oh yeah. 100%.
That conversation of the dog failing will likely stop at the table with the veterinarian.
Right.
Over there. It's a little different. So I mean, I do, in my opinion, that is the best system. Like Terry said, it is the best system. Right.
Yep.
I would not knock that by any means.
Right.
But there's the flip side of that when it comes to genetics, that you can't continue to shrink your gene pool. You have to allow your gene pool to expand.
Right. Okay. Well, guys, I ain't gonna hold y'all up more any longer. I can go a bunch of different ways with you guys, and I appreciate all the information you dropped tonight. The chat was enjoying it. Chat was hype up in there tonight. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So closing remarks, benediction, how to get in contact with you. Brother Forte, you want to start out?
Oh, yeah. And again, name is Anthony Forte, owner of Rottweilers, Baumhaus Forte in BB, Arkansas. You can find me on Facebook, Rottweilers, Baumhaus Forte, or you can just type in Anthony Forte. You'll find me. Also on Instagram, Roddy's Baumhaus Forte. You can reach out to me, whether it's, you just want to talk dogs, you're looking for a pup, you're looking to get more information about the shows. If I don't got the information, I'll go find it for you. If I got what you're looking for, hey, we can make something happen.
What's up? What's up?
I keep it simple.
Brother Quinn.
All right, so if you Google,
somebody had something nice to say about you too.
So if you Google Quin Brumfield, I'll come up on Google for.
Hey, I second Pete's. What he talking about? It's probably my boy Eugene right there.
Yeah.
Thanks, Eugene.
I second what he say.
If you I'm on Google, so if you Google me, we'll come up. One of the Rottweiler breeders in Florida. If you want to talk about secret shows, you can contact North Florida Rottweiler Club, or you can contact the United Rottweiler Club of America. Just some of the venues, and I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, like most people. So under Von Quinn Rottweilers.
Right. Brother Terry, you wanna?
Yeah, you can find me at Von Himmel Rottweilers. I have a Facebook page. I also have an email address, which you can find that on my actual personal page and my Facebook page. You'll be seeing me at shows this upcoming year, and I look forward to seeing a bunch of you people out there. And please understand that in order to preserve the breed, we must all work together as one.
Yes.
That goes for the 3 different clubs, and that goes for the individuals in this breed. We can't continue to go on like this and expect for the breed to be successful unless we do so.
Yeah.
Right. All right.
The breed's only going to suffer if we don't come together.
Right. Once again, thank y'all, Forte, Auntie Forte, bro. Thank you for putting this together.
Oh, absolutely,
man. Very impressed with you. I'm a big component of skills, paying the bills, and you gotta have brothers that can put things together. So I know they appreciate you, man. So and Brother Terry, you're a wealth of knowledge. We need to have you back. We need to go over some real deep history and things like that. 30 plus years in. Good God.
Yeah, I told you.
Yeah, man.
I told you.
How many of y'all want to see that?
There's a part. There got to be a part 2 coming.
It got to be a part two. Yeah, because we could have went so many ways with this. I was kind of having to compact the people in the comments. Hey, no, hold on. We gonna get to it.
Yeah, I got pictures of dogs. I got pedigrees. I can tell you some things that breeders have said and given me knowledge in regards to the breed. One in particular, I will say this to you. I once heard Joe Heddle say, rest in peace, whenever you're judging or looking at a Rottweiler, always remember that you can always find something nice to say about that dog.
Yeah.
Always.
Yep.
That's true. Okay. All right. But once again, gentlemen, thank you. Chat. We'll see y'all in about a week.
Yes, sir.
Everybody take care.
All right. See you guys, man.
All right,
Thanks, Anthony.
appreciate y'all.
Thanks, Quinn.
All right.